Hello and welcome to Chuck and Big at the series where we help out small businesses tell their stories, and we've brought on a lot of businesses that have helped us out along the way, either to stay healthy, supply us with caffeine, or to do any of the above. And I'm very stoked this morning to have one of probably the people that keeps me glued together in between comps or lifting and everything I do behind the scenes. From Seaford Myotherapy in Seaford, Victoria, Australia. If you guys are watching it from somewhere other than Seaford, give us a shout out, and you guys can get in touch with Brooke. So Brooke the Myo, check her out on Instagram at Brooke the Myo. We'll post the links below, and you can check out Seaford Myotherapy as well. Brooke, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. One of the things along the way for me has been trying to find the right people to make sure that I can keep on the field, on the pitch, performing, doing everything I want to do. And along the way, myotherapy has been a big thing that's played a role in that. So I just wanted to give everybody out there a little bit of a backstory to what myotherapy really is.
So in a nutshell, myotherapy is a form of physical therapy used to treat or prevent soft tissue pain and restricted joint moving caused by muscles or myofascial dysfunction. So the basic foundation of what we do is we deal with muscles. So myotherapy is muscle therapy. So anything to do with muscles is what we specialize in. So obviously we focus more on the day-to-day functions, probably more of a sports aspect. And limit, particularly for you, Josh, we focus on the limitations of what are preventing you from doing what you need to do. So for you, the big lifting, muscle movement in terms of pain, lack of pain, fluid movement to be able to achieve everything that you want to achieve. And the biggest thing that we try and do is prevent injuries. So a lot of injuries in our cases, we can never completely prevent an injury. Injuries are unfortunately something that we can't control, but we work in trying to prevent injuries in terms of keeping the muscles and tissues as viable and elasticity as we can, and allowing the body opportunities to do and correct what it needs to do.
And that's been such a vital component to, coming from being a high performance athlete back in the day to now finding a niche in stone lifting and all these random things where, I think we had a chat once where it's that moment where you're a little bit relaxed, where you make those little mistakes. And I always get asked that question, like, oh, am I going to hurt myself with lifting and this, that, and the other? And a big thing for me, I have to keep in the moment. And, and then from there, like you said, that elasticity and movement is such a key for me because I notice a huge difference if I'm locked up or I'm feeling a bit tight in places, especially a couple of days out from either a performance or an event where I'm truly maybe not in the moment to where I should be because I'm too busy thinking about the other stuff mechanically or functioning wise. And that's where, I'll come and see you either a couple of days ahead of time or, post event to try to make sure that it's a constant give and take relationship with my body and that sort of thing. So what got you into myotherapy? Because that's, one of those things where everybody goes, okay, well, what do I do with my hands? And they're like, do you like bodies? Like, how did you get into that?
I am an incredibly accident-prone person. So I am the kind of person that will walk into a table and turn up with a bruise that looks like I've been in a car accident. So my body has always been one that I've had to be very, very careful with. I was a netballer for 12 years growing up as a kid. So I have grown up around the sporting industry. And the age of 17, I did my ACL playing netball. So obviously spent a lot of time in a rehab environment. And that really encouraged me in terms of the fact that I could help people and I could have a big impact on how somebody moves by simply actually taking an interest in what they have to say. I had originally wanted to become a physio because obviously growing up playing netball, myotherapy and massage is only one of those things that's really only starting to become a household name, probably the last 5 years. So around when I did my injury, massage was never something that had even crossed my mind. Unfortunately for me, leaving school, I never got the marks that I needed to become a physio. So we basically had to reassess. My mother and, actually, funny enough, my current boss, Kaylee, way before I worked for her as I do now, was actually the people that really focused my interest on massage and myotherapy. I consider myself to be incredibly creative. So anything that I can do with my hands, I feel like I have most control. I'm not academic in the slightest, unless it's something that I can actually relate into a real world aspect or, find interest in. It goes straight over the top of my head. So having an industry that plays to my strengths and I feel comfortable in doing really, really spoke to me. I think I was incredibly fortunate that, I think at a certain period of time, everybody suits the role they're doing. And I think for me, without thinking about it, this has been something that I can do and not have to think about it. I have somehow managed to put together the thought process and the real world aspect of what I'm doing in ways that people around me never have.
Well, and that's interesting because as you're talking and you're talking about that sort of physical physicality with your hands and that sort of touch and feel kinesthetic, I'm thinking of a person that molds clay, and sort of really, gets in that moment with how the clay moves and how it actually looks and how it develops. And I think that's such a rare thing for some people because they actually see it in their head to how it's meant to be. And I really love people that can see things in their head, and you almost wish they had like a TV just out to the right. And you could actually see what they're thinking because they're like in this crazy fantasy world where they've actually done the thing before it's happened. And do you relate to that?
Yeah, 100%. I think, a person will walk in to see to me, and to everybody else, they're just a body. But that initial walk-in period is where I get all my information. I've figured out most likely what kind of body ailments you have by just how you've walked in. I've already formed some form of conclusion or understanding of what I think we're about to talk about because I've been able to shift and view all of that without you've even opened your mouth. So yeah, 100%. People to me are clay. I've obviously changed and adapted I can now use my thumbs and my body and my elbows. I've now trained my elbows to be able to feel things that the average person, I touch points and things in the human body and people just like, well, what the hell? And it's like, yeah, sorry. This is what we're doing. So, 100%. I think for me, I'm already 3-4 steps ahead of what the person's about to tell me. I already have multiple points of and ideas of what I think we could be dealing with and multiple ways of how we fix it. And that's the beauty of what we do, similar to clay, is there's no right or wrong way to fix anything. So if I try something and it doesn't work, I then have 20 other ways to achieve the same thing that is still going to be beneficial. I think the beauty of myotherapy and this kind of stuff is there's no right or wrong answer to it. The human body is one of those aspects that we can't put in a box. It's changing day in, day out. So being able to assess it and take it for what it is on the day is really, really important because I can't go in with a pre-controlled or pre-thought out idea of what I'm going to be dealing with because you're also dealing with things such as emotions and stress. And I mean, someone sitting for a half hour longer than what they should have can have such a major impact on what we expect to see. So you can't put anything into a box.
No, you're so right on if you do something a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, or there's a change or, and sometimes our body and our mind can really play with it. and try to find its own path. But then sometimes we need a person like yourself that has the use of all of her tools, the sledgehammer.
My elbow, yeah, my sledgehammer.
To make sure that, it's sort of finding, a guide to help it along the way, and then sort of see how it reacts and go from there. And I think really one of the big components for me is that it's a relationship for me, because you find the therapist that best is the guide for your body, and has that understanding that every time you come in there, they've got a fundamental, like you said, of how it might be. But then on top of that, it's, if you can open up that communication line of, okay, well, this is what I'm feeling, and these are the things, and then the question and answer starts happening. There's such a better holistic approach to therapy, or to recovery, or to have whatever terminology you want to use. And that plays a big role. So I think if you see and I hear this so often, I went to a massage therapist and it was okay, or it was the one time. And it's, for me, if I think of it as a coach, if you came to me once and asked me for all the answers, I'm probably going to give you what I can possibly give you, but I've got a lot more to bring to the table. And that's why it is one of those things where you find a person that you can really build a relationship and have a therapy that's long-term, compared to somebody that's just, oh, I'm hurt now, I've got to go get fixed, and it's great because you might be fixed for a couple of weeks, but you really sort of haven't been able to build that guide or that pathway, and then listen to your body, and then have it manipulated, listen to it, manipulated, put it through the whatever you might do. So basically you kind of went through what to expect from a treatment, person, logs in and they probably got a bit of fear and they're like, what the heck is myotherapy? And I think we've defined that. But then, the next step is what can they expect, sort of on the table, and then maybe what can they expect post therapy? Yeah.
So my philosophy when it comes to treatments is probably completely backwards to everybody who's ever spoken in the industry. My philosophy is I don't want you to have to come in and see me. I want you to want to come in and see me. So if you're having to come back every week and see me, I haven't done my job right. So I view my job more as education, and actually teaching people to be in tune with their bodies. It's fine and dandy someone coming in and telling me, but you need to understand what you're telling me. And that's one of the biggest things that I work with my clients, and what I tell them from the get-go is what we do on the table, which is, a lot of sports massage style. I mean, my nickname is the sledgehammer. So you don't come into a treatment with me and think that it's going to be fun and dandy. But one of the things that I really focus on is actually giving people the tools to go with at home. Massage and myotherapy and any of the allied health industries, it's not you come in, get fixed, and it's a magical pill that you never need to come back. A lot of it is actually fine-tuning things. You come in and go, well, this. I send you home with an exercise and a stretch and a roll, and then you'll come back to me 2 weeks, 2 days, whatever period of time you choose to come back in, and go, okay, this felt right, but this is now the issue. It's, as you said, it's a relationship. We're dealing with the human body that changes and shifts, and nothing is ever put in a box. So to think that I can give you an exercise, you walk away and the body's magically fixed, that's not how it works. Often, I will fix an area and something else will pop up. So, the biggest thing with the table stuff is give me 3 treatments, and if there's no improvement by then, I'm not your girl. And my style of treatment doesn't work for everybody, but I think the biggest expectation and understanding people need to have when they come in to any form of treatment is it's not a one-stop magical pill that's going to make you feel better.
And the other part of that is post-treatment, is that the recovery of post-treatment, I think, is another spot where people kind of go, I got this massage, I'm supposed to feel 100% as soon as it's done. It's not supposed to feel like training. It's not supposed to feel like this. And I think that's where that athlete mindset of a person that goes in going, I just put my body through stress. I did a
Yep.
lift or I did whatever. Okay, I understand I've got 24 to 48 hours or window of that. Whereas when they go to therapy, they go, okay, well, I've done therapy, so it should be better. It should just walk out and feel like, Gumby and just be able to move. And in a sense, it's really just another piece of training.
Yeah. So the biggest thing I tell my clients is chances are you're going to hate me tomorrow. And if you don't hate me tomorrow, chances are I haven't done what I needed to do. So for us, and probably it's the same with most athletes, would understand the terminology we say, which is DOMS, which is delayed onset muscle soreness. And basically what happens with DOMS is it's the body's trying to cope with the situation and basically the torment and torture we've just put the body through, and it's the body actually coming to terms with it. And often that doesn't present or show up until that night or the next day when the body's actually had an adequate time to cool down. So yes, the treatment on the table might not have felt like anything, but the real answers and the really big thing that I need to know was how you pulled up.
Massively. And that really plays into my sort of last question, which is who's an athlete? And I get this all the time is, oh, you know what? I go on weekends and I do big hikes. I'm a weekend warrior. Am I truly an athlete? Or, and I think my definition is just to sort of put it out there is anybody that actually puts their mind to something on an ongoing basis and puts their body through a stress-based training of whatever it is an athlete. And in that case, you have to have your holistic approach. Otherwise, you're basically breaking down little pieces because you're going, I'm not an athlete. I don't need recovery. I don't need myotherapy. I don't need all these things. I'm just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and what would your definition be?
My definition would be incredibly similar to yours. I think the idea of an athlete is somebody that's plays or paid professionally to do a sport is a incredibly old, kind of out of date mindset. I deal with people from all walks of life. I deal with children, as I think the youngest child I've dealt with was 6 or 7, up to, I think I have a 90-year-old, right? And to me, there's no big difference between the 6-year-old and the 90-year-old because they're still moving. So our definition of athlete is no longer somebody that slogs out in the gym and trains 6 days a week. As long as you're doing some form of movement, and that can be gardening or walking or weightlifting or even the strains of sitting at a computer desk and then going for a run or being a physical tradie. I think there's no such thing as an athlete anymore because everything we do involves movement. And you can't blink your eyes or scratch your nose or breathe in without moving some form of a muscle. So everybody in my opinion is an athlete.
That's that right there sums it up, is that if you guys are doing any sort of physical activity, especially considering through these lockdowns where it's stop, start, there's a lot of stress, this is where you might, if you got that idea in your head that relates to you, you might look up your local myotherapy wherever you are in the world. You might check out Seaford Myotherapy and Brooke the Myo on Instagram, and just reach out, ask the questions, and it comes down to you don't know what you don't know. And I've used this line so often recently because I get the same thing as this is how it is. And I'm like, well, but do you really know? Have you really asked the question? Have you spent the time to just go, could this really make my life better? Could this make my training better? And if that's something you relate to, check out those resources. And please support small businesses in the area. This is the time now to reach out, either buy gift vouchers or anything you possibly can to help us out. Look up Brooke the Myo on Instagram. Check out Seaford Myotherapy. And thank you so much, Brooke, for being on here this morning.
Thank you for having me. And anybody feel free to chuck me a message. I'm more than happy to sit down and send you some research or anything that may relate to people. Biggest thing, any movement you do is movement.
Ooh, that's the prime finish. Have an amazing day, everybody. Check out the rest of Chuck and Big at series, and we look forward to chatting with you soon, maybe meeting you in person in an event, and go from there. See you guys.
See ya.